Hey everybody, welcome back to Ready Steady Play, where we're doing our final thoughts on Century from East to West.
What was that about?
I don't know. It's building the tension, building the suspense. What did they think of it? So this is the triptych game, the combo game of all three centuries. I remember 3 years ago when Spice Road came out at UKG. And
was that 3 years ago?
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago Century Spice Road came out at UKG.
Oh. The first one?
Yeah.
Recent? Wow. I don't know why. I thought it was longer than that.
Well, because it's been one a year, and New World came out this year.
Yeah. So
last year, it would have been Eastern Wonders, and the year before that, Spice Road.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Spice Road first came out, everyone was a bit like, ooh, this is interesting. It's a first in a trilogy, which is unusual.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that these ones are all relatively light, and then they come together to make sort of games of varying complexities.
Mm.
And Spice Road is, of course, the Indian Spice Road spice trading game. Eastern Wonders is all about sailing the seas and trading spices that way.
Mm-hmm.
And the New World is all about acquiring goods in the New World. And yeah, so they fit together to create this sort of moment in history, which manifests as this two to four player worker placement resource management game.
Good. Download. Good description. That's exactly what it says on the tin.
I do my best. So there's many different ways to trade cubes. If in this version, you must really collect cubes up here, and then you can go down here to trade them, over here to trade them, or over here to trade them.
Mm.
And they bring this in from Spice Road. Just the cards, actually, are the only component from Spice Roads that are used.
That's it.
These two come with a new world. All of these houses and boats and tiles come from Eastern Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And then the remaining tiles and all these little tiles and the player boards and these cards down here and these green cards here all come from a new world. So it uses the majority of New World components.
Yes.
And the ways you win are by collecting these cards, which also trigger game end. But you can also win points by collecting these, which are sort of combo tiles that run off of these cards. And you can win by putting out your little houses here on the ocean. And you can win, that's it actually, but you can also collect the combo tiles up here by collecting these century cards.
Yeah. From
down here. And I'll tell you what I liked, Michael.
What did you like?
I liked that it's one very simple mechanic, which is trading the cubes in order to buy the cards,
mm-hmm.
or to do things that allow you to collect these combo tiles. And I like that it gives you many different options to do that. So it's not as frustrating as a much harsher worker placement game where you really lose out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most frustrating board in this whole situation is this one over here, because this really is a racing against time, which I grokked and you didn't, as you can see from the game state here.
Standard.
But if you want to put out houses on tiles other people have houses on, it's more expensive. So if you're going to get involved over here, you need to try and do it before someone takes everything away.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's nice that if someone takes the one spot you had your eye on, there's other options you can do that are all productive. So there's plenty of sort of spaces to go. And you can even, if you really want, outbid them and take the space they went on, just at a higher cost to you. But I do think that cost is very high. Having said that, I said that we would never do it, and we did it a few times, didn't we?
We did it a couple of times. The interesting thing is, the bonuses that allow you to go somewhere at a minus figure,
mm-hmm.
don't really give you that bonus if someone's already gone there, do they?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
So it's almost, is it as good as what you think it is?
So all of these endgame scoring cards also have bonuses on, and so these discount spaces with bones on. So, you could go up here for less or over here for cheaper as well. Other common bonuses include this kind, which means you get extra cubes for going in those spaces, which I actually think is better.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think it's better because it's always going to benefit you whether or not you're paying over someone. Having said that, I thought that these really helped you out, and I was jealous that I didn't have them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was able to take advantage of them. What I wasn't able then to do was I had the people, but I wasn't able to utilize them in the most effective way possible.
Yeah, well, and you kind of like, I mean, you kind of,
generation.
and that's sort of coming into my next point, which is like in the end game, you get a lot of, you get points for scoring these cards, you get points for scoring these tiles, but because the cards and the tiles are randomized, I think that randomization could really frustrate some people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to an extent, you kind of have to hate draft. You know, and not just hate draft these cards, but these tiles. So if you see, for example, someone like me who's grabbing all these exploration symbols, comboing them with these exploration tiles, you need to get involved in confiscating some of those. It's much more difficult in a 2-player game, whereas in a 3-up player game, you could have a bit of table banter, like, Mike's got all the exploration stars.
Yeah.
We need to get these cards away from him or he's going to stomp it. But I think that they're on this board when we set out, there was a very clear combo to me. Whereas I think that in other boards, you might not see a clear combo, or you might, which I think is the most frustrating scenario,
And someone else
reveal a clear combo after you gain a subpar tile. So you're like, I got there first, but it's going to benefit them.
Yeah.
Because they're now in a position. It's the same issue I actually had with the Eastern Wonders scoring ports in Eastern Wonders, which has this exact kind of same mechanic, except instead of these cards, the tiles are worth the endgame victory points, and the game ends the first of 4 tiles, and they're just set up on ports around the board. But it's the same kind of thing. I would grab one of those port tiles worth a number of points and just reveal one that was, you know, just happened to be excellent for my opponent.
Yeah.
And just kind of really help them out.
And they'd be like, don't.
I think that if you enjoy that kind of randomization, then this is obviously not a problem for you. But I think if you're sort of...
Someone could get frustrated by it.
If you're a very diehard Euro player, it could be very frustrating for you. I minded it a lot in Eastern Wonders. I mind it less in this.
Maybe just because you were able to do the things you were able to do because there was fewer players.
Yeah, it's probably because there were fewer players. I think the more players you have, the more random it becomes because you're cycling the tiles and the cards more often, which is funny because it also feels like the game would be better with more players in terms of the space selection, but then it would be more frustrating.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's definitely a game that benefits. It's going to be like, I think this game benefits from more players. However, that's going to make it like...
Then you're gonna have a much lower chance of getting the tile or card you want.
Well, exactly.
You know, and if you spend time planning... So what is interesting about this is with 2 players, it sort of becomes a cube changing optimization game, right? It's all about sort of building up the cubes to get a card, right? Or to be able to do the things to unlock a tile. But with more players, it becomes much more important to have access to ways to change the cubes, which is primarily this, right?
Exactly right.
But then these spaces are going to be more contested, you know, and this over here really is going to benefit people that unlock settlers and unlock the budget cards as well. But the problem is, and I feel like this was a bit under-realized because I like the idea of being able to unlock these slots.
There's just not that much opportunities to unlock them, which I found incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, because it feels like if you're the kind of person that's invested in these discount cards and invested in getting all the workers, that's actually a viable alternative to going over here and putting out all these houses.
Which was my strategy, except it didn't work out.
And I'll tell you why, because when I move on to a tile, I just poop out a house.
Yeah.
But these bushes are almost impossible to remove. We only got rid of 3.
And that's because they can only get removed
by those cards.
Nope. Yes.
So
the symbol there.
I don't know how many are in that deck, but you know, based on the shuffle, you might not see any of them. I mean, with more players, you're going to see more of them. But that means that in a 2-player game, the ocean strategy or whatever is stronger, and in a more player game, maybe this strategy is stronger because these all have end game victory conditions or game bonus is on them as well, you know, whereas those don't, but they do unlock scoring. So I feel like this is always going to be the better strategy unless you're paying through the nose to put out the houses.
When we played it,
I could be wrong,
but when we played it together, just the 2 of us, and we just played
when we played the new world just by itself without the combo.
Yeah. I feel the game was a lot closer because we were both trying to unlock these we both had pretty much had the same.
But I think we still had the same issue though, didn't we?
We definitely still had the same issue in the fact that it was difficult to unlock them, but at least we were both trying to get the same goal then.
Right. So, but I still unlocked more of these than you did in this game.
Yeah.
But I just unlocked the ones I wanted. I think it would be nice to have like another option to explore these other than buying these cards, you know, or else have the option when you buy the card of unlocking this ability or removing one of these, you know, like something like that.
Yeah. I was going to say something before. The ability to unlock these is also beholden about what this symbol is, because you might
want that symbol,
or you might not have the resources. It's then all like trying to
Right, so you might not want this victory symbol but want to do an explore action, and then you have to make this tough choice,
and then try and make sure that you've got these to take it, because then that might not help you to, it might be difficult for you to get them or something like that.
Sure. I think that you do have to, it does sort of compromise. Like, I prioritized getting the combo tiles and the symbols that matched, and I didn't really worry about anything else. Like, I happened to do 2 explores because I wanted to explore symbols. Interestingly, I think
they're all the same.
They're all the same. All of the ones with explore symbols give you
the explorer tokens, which makes total sense.
And all the ones with the construction symbols gives you the extra resources. I don't think I like that very much. Because it means that if you're trying to go for a single kind of symbol, then you're kind of railroaded into a certain way of playing.
Yeah, that's true.
On the other hand, you know, you could, like, I obviously went, well, but then, you know, that's the other thing. Like, because these symbols are used multiple times in endgame scoring, it behooves you to get a lot of the same kind of symbol.
Yeah.
Like, that's good for you. Whereas, you know, if you spread out the symbols because you want a diverse sort of range of abilities during the course of the game, then you're going to miss out on these combo points.
Yeah.
I liked that you could sort of define your own. I was worried that four tiles wasn't going to be enough, but it felt like more than enough.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that in a game where with more players, it would be quite difficult to get 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I was going to say I think that getting these ones out is easier than those ones, but I think that's actually just because I kind of had free reign of this board. I think this board is too big for 2 players.
You reckon?
Yeah, I think that it's they could maybe like put out fewer tiles for fewer players.
I think it's because though you've got to have at least 3 tiles for each commodity.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you make that smaller?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this, then you would need more player boards per player, wouldn't you? Because you could, if you had that board any smaller, you couldn't unlock all of these spaces. Yeah. You know? So that's a challenge. But what it just meant was that you and I could have both unlocked half of our boards without ever actually having to discard any
cubes or be...
And I'd love to say that I selected these based on what was on the tiles, but I maybe only thought about that once or twice.
Yeah, it was more,
the most efficient route to get these out as quick as possible. Yeah. Because I wanted these tiles and I didn't want you to take them. Yeah. So it's like, what is the route around the board that gets me what I want the most efficient way? Yeah. So that was intriguing. This I like this in theory, but in practice it didn't seem to work out very well.
Yeah. I think this seems a bit of a... To refresh them for 2 and then have another go immediately, I don't know. It just seems like you're cycling your people faster.
Yeah, I mean, you could have got a big discount on that, though. You could have put 1 person down there and then taken these.
Yeah. I suppose that would have got me more. Yeah, see, the thing is I think these are very good once you've got the cubes, because you can start doing all sorts of different combos.
But I think that's the thing, they're so dependent on, like, you can't plan
what's going to come out.
Yeah. You know, and in a game with 3 or 4 players, you might cycle them, see a card you want, use your second go to get a cube so that you can take it or utilize it, and then by the time your turn comes back around, it's gone, either because someone took it or did the same thing themselves.
Yeah.
This felt to me, I took 1 sentry card, because it seemed useful at the time, and it was gain a cube.
Yeah.
Like, I never used those for trading because they just never lined up with what I wanted to do.
Or what you had available.
Mm. And I think it's a real shame because I feel like what I really liked From Sand to Sea, which is the combo of Eastern Wonders and Spice Road, was the fact that if you wanted to move around this board with your boat and take actions on this board, you had to discard these cards from your hand. And so you had to choose between using the card for its card ability or choose between doing things on this board with your boat. Mm-hmm. And I liked that decision point. But it doesn't exist in this game anymore because now we're just doing worker placement with these boys, mm-hmm. you know? And that feels like a real shame to me. I would have much prefer... I mean, it just felt like they took out the interesting decision point and made it just more generic worker placement.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. I totally get your point there. It's just made it more of the same.
Well, it's just like when I'm putting out my people now, I'm just looking at the spaces I need, and I'm not really thinking too hard about... I mean, what I mean is that obviously I have to think about the price of the space and whether I can use it. But, ultimately I take what I want, my highest priority, and then if I've got like a couple guys left, I'll do a thing. Uh-huh. But then I have to reclaim my people. But with these cards, every time I'm like looking through my hand, I'm thinking about which one I'm going to use to pay for this action, which one do I need to take the ability on it, so I need to keep that one, and that's a much more interesting puzzle because it's just there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And you can do it when it's not your turn, and largely the game state won't have moved on so much that all of that thinking is wasted, which is the problem with this and that action, right? Because it's entirely possible by the time it comes back around to your turn, the game state will have changed so much the action you want is no longer valid.
Yeah.
And even if it is, if it is, that's fine. In a 2-player game, it's probably still going to be there. But I still wonder if it's not too... 4 cards doesn't seem like enough. Maybe if there was 8 cards. Yeah, because in Sand to Sea you just pick them up, right? And that's a turn, buy a card.
Yeah.
All the turns in From Sand to Sea are short. And actually, this did move at a clip pace. Yeah. Even though we had a timer.
I think it's because there was only the 2 of us.
But do you think that it would really slow down without the timer, or with more players?
Yeah, I think it would.
I do worry that with a player who's particularly prone to analysis paralysis or overanalyzing options, the element I like, which is giving you lots of options, so you've always got a viable choice, also could really drag. And I don't think that the actual decision space of the game is interesting enough to keep everyone else engaged. While that player's thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's a problem.
I think that's quite a valid point.
I don't think I'd want to play this with 4.
Oh, really?
No.
Unless you had the timer.
Yeah, with the timer, sure. If everyone's got 20 bloody seconds, that'd be really funny.
But it just changes the whole game then, though, doesn't it?
I mean,
yes and no. But yes, it does.
Yeah, but is it fighting against the negative elements of the game or not? Right? Because the other thing about the game is it's a bear to set up, because you have to go into 3 boxes and open up all 3 boxes and get out all these different components and stuff. I'm not saying that it's not outrageously long setup time.
Not a chore.
But I think there are games that do the same thing.
Yes.
But they're quicker to set up and they're better.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite difficult to sort of give a final verdict because there is 7 games in these 3 boxes.
There's such different...
and at least one of them, which isn't actually...
Such different... I don't mean the word dynamic. Variability between all 7 games and how many people are playing them and things like that. It's you could have a different experience every single time.
Yeah, and I think...
Like any game, I suppose.
But I think the question you've really got to ask yourself is, are you interested in going through these 7 different combinations, searching for...
Which one you like the best?
Yeah, or do you just want to know that when you buy a game, it's really good out of the box? Because I think I prefer the latter, personally, but I think it depends on you and your group and how excited you are.
Maybe the fun part of it to discover. The only thing is, like, once you've discovered it's not very good, you might be like, oh, where?
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because... I think that's the thing, because what you want is for all of them to be really good, you know, because you've
Particularly
paid...
if you've invested that money in it.
Yeah, you've invested that money in it, and you don't want someone to put out a bad game and then you play it and just to discover that it was bad.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not saying this is bad. I thought this was, you know...
I don't mind the Century series, to be fair. I quite like it. I think each one brings their own different, unique spin to it.
I'm not a big fan of any one of them by themselves. I was a big fan of From Sand to Sea. I really liked that one. That was the combo of the first two.
Yeah. Oh, I do remember that, yes.
I wasn't a big fan of the others.
On its own.
Of that on its own, it was the randomization of the port scoring tiles. Yeah. It also felt like every turn you just had some very basic action choices. It was the decision space of these cards that I've already talked about that made that interesting for me.
Yeah.
And I really liked that, and I said this is almost worth 60 quid. If you like the either game by itself, it probably is worth it. If you don't, then it's probably not. And now this is like, we're looking at 90 to 100 quid for the triple.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that this is worth it by itself. So
£90 is a lot of money.
90 to 100 pounds is a lot of money.
To see what you could get with that.
Yeah, and especially seeing as so far, and to be fair, we have not done an exhaustive review of all different versions of the game, so there might be a gem in there somewhere. I'd love to try and find it. If you've tried a version, let me know in the comments below, and we'll play it, maybe even put it on the channel.
Yeah.
If there's a version you think's particularly great, because
combo.
But you know, someone's got to do that research, and I'm just like, I'd love it to be us, but at the same time, you know, I'm like, you know, you want this wanted to be the best version of the game. I think this had to be the version.
Yeah,
that
to
really
use all three, it had to be the all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles.
Yeah, I wanted each different component to really bring something to the game, and I just felt like they didn't really.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
it was almost like, I don't know. Almost feels like a bit of a nap trying to work out how to get it in there.
Well, when you can get Architects for 35 quid.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
But, you know, I'm not completely resilient to the idea of trying it again.
But if someone else got this out at a games night, I'd be like, yeah, I'm totally down.
Yeah, but I think you and I are the kind of special people that are just happy to sort of sit and play games, you know. Probably the worst kind of people to actually be reviewers.
You know? You like everything, and I like simple things.
But also, like, if someone's like, do you want to play a game? I'm like, yes! And they're like, shall we play this game that you hate? And I'm like, just sure, if that's what you want.
It's like, yeah. I'm like, you don't say that when I say hotel.
It's not a game. It's not a game, Michael.
But it is. It's got a box and everything.
It's a game in the same way flipping a coin's a game.
But it's got nice little models.
Sucker for the components. Right, is that everything that we've got on this?
I believe so.
Is there nothing more to say? I would have liked to say something more positive, but I can't think of anything right now.
I don't hate it, and if someone wanted to play it, I would play it with them. I think that's a good
sterling, but we don't think it's worth 90 to 100.
But I'm not sure if it's worth £90 for all 90 to £100 to get all three to play this version.
From Sand to Sea is good. It's a shame you have to buy Spice Road and Eastern Wonders to get it. There might be another version in there, and if there is, we'll
and it might change with more players. It depends on you.
I think it's just gonna. I think more players will just add downtime and exacerbate the random elements.
Heard it here first.
Damn it! I'm Debbie Downer. I don't want to be Debbie Downer. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Tomorrow's a completely different adventure.
Yeah. Who knows what it's going to be, but it'll be fun.
Another version of Century.
Yeah.
We'll just play through every version of Century on the channel.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, unsubscribe. No, but
I mean, probably.
Well, no.
Bye.
See you later, guys. See you next time.